Woohoo! All right. Hey everybody, it's Dave with DII. I've got my fancy glasses on today. Hey, we've got a special guest with us today. We've got Greg Paxton. He's over there. All right. I'm looking at you over there, but the camera says you're over there.
It's kind of funny.
All right. So we are going to be hanging out. We're going to be talking about rhythms in handpan today. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, it's over there below Greg, I believe, the red subscribe button. So subscribe to the channel. It'd be great to have you as a subscriber. Also, go to our website, davesislandinstruments.com, and if you want to become get onto our newsletter, go down to the bottom of the homepage and click on Join Now and join the newsletter. It'd be great. You can see advertisements for stuff like this, for the live shows that we do and different things that we have, sales and that sort of thing of our products. Also, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com, and then go to Dave's Island Instruments, and make sure to like us there, because you're going to be able to get all sorts of fun information there as well. All right, we're going to be talking about rhythm today. And it's funny, because now that I'm thinking about it, we probably should have changed the cameras so that I would have been looking at you. But it's all good.
Too late now.
Yeah. Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first got started with rhythm and drums and all that sort of thing.
Well, my earliest, I guess, my earliest recollection of being moved by music was the Beatles, way back then, a long time ago. And I remember seeing them on the Ed Sullivan Show when I was very young. That means I'm very old now. But no getting around that. At any rate, so I was got really into music at a very young age. And from then on, I just started getting really involved in, just really listening. My first albums were some Beatle records. And then I would try to sneak some Rolling Stones records in without my mom knowing, because they were considered the bad boys, you know. So, but anyway, I was very interested in rock music early on, but I didn't get my first drum set till I was 14.
14?
So I came to it a little bit later than some people, but I had already been doing air drumming in my bedroom, you know, just practicing, you know, hammering out some beats and trying to figure out what was what. So by the time I first sat down at a drum set, I could kind of play some basic rock beats. And then, of course, I would play to my records in my room, come home after school, and, you know, while most kids were off doing baseball and football or something like that, I was kind of at home just playing music. And which is another reason I kind of got into music, was because not being an athlete, it was an easy way to attract girls.
Oh, of course.
You know, so, I mean, that's always a big thing. But, you know, and then from there, so I got in some of my first rock bands when I was a teenager, and then when I went off to college the first time, I actually met some people who were playing a lot of jazz, and then I really started getting into playing that, and I struggled with it for a while because it was a bit tricky it was a little bit different than what I was used to playing. But I did kind of, was a little bit familiar with it because my parents would play a lot of Miles Davis, Count Basie records when I was a kid.
Of course.
And so I had heard it, and it was in my system, but then just to try to put it on the drum set, that was a little bit more interesting. So then I got in, so I started playing a lot of jazz, and then from there, branched off into some of the other forms. The Brazilian stuff, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, what they call Latin jazz, and some Afro Cuban, some salsa stuff. And then that evolved into me playing what I really play a lot of now, because I also play steel drum. And I met Dave actually in, when was it, about 96 or 7, up at Long Beach State. I was in the steel drum band up there, and I met Dave through that. And that's what got me really into steel drum and calypso music. And that's one of my first loves nowadays. And I don't really play drum set too much anymore, but enough to still, you know, I'm doing a little bit of work on it, mostly some recording in my studio. Mostly what I'm playing now is steel drum. So, and so that's kind of my basic, in a nutshell, background right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you and I pretty much met at Cal State Long Beach and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun getting involved with all those programs there. And so, all right, so let's get down to the meat of things. Today we're going to be talking about some rhythms. And I believe we have on our list a basic rock rhythm, calypso, African, Brazilian, Afro Cuban, and what was the last one? Can I read it? Oh yeah, just Afro Cuban, but just in variations of Afro Cuban. So
yeah, we're going to cover a lot of ground. So
yeah, so I've got a handpan here, and for anybody out there that hasn't seen a handpan before, this is a handpan, and we're basically going to be Greg's going to be talking us through some of these rhythms. and kind of taking out the elements of each one of those rhythms, and so that you can kind of learn on the handpan how to play them, even just minimally, or at least gain an understanding of how they all work. And then we're going to play together a little bit and just show some examples of how we can play those rhythms together. So what do you think, Greg? You want to get started with the basic rock rhythm?
Yeah, let's get started. So
Okay.
let me show you. I'm sure anybody watching has seen a drum set before, and most people get what it is, but just to go over some basics. So, and I've got just a small set here just to cover a few basic things, but this is the bass drum, so that would cover the low end. And a lot of what Dave will do when he's copying what I'm doing is he'll play the low end on the ding note of the handpan.
Right.
And then this is called the snare drum. And that emphasizes a lot of the backbeat. So a backbeat in rock would be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's your basic backbeat. Then you've got what we call the hi-hat and the ride cymbal. And on those we play what's called a ride pattern, which is sort of like basically the metronome of the beat. It's keeping the time. So here would be a basic rock beat. We'll do the We Will Rock You beat. How's that one? That's a good one to start.
Hey,
So.
let me cut you off real quick, Greg, because I forgot to tell everybody out there in YouTube land. If you guys have any questions or any comments, feel free to put them in the comments screen. I'm looking at my phone over here, and I'm already seeing a couple of comments. So we've got Diva D said hi from San Diego. So hello, Diva D. Thanks.
All right, my hometown.
Right on. That's right. Thanks for tuning in again, Diva D. And Alvaro says, thanks to both of you for your time and knowledge. Absolutely, Alvaro. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you because it really expands the conversation a lot and really makes it interactive and a lot of fun like that. So anyway, just interrupt anytime as we're talking about this stuff. All right, Greg, go for it. Tell us a little bit more about that rock beat.
Okay, and then, well, but before I do that,
Okay.
part of the reason that we're doing this is because this will hopefully inspire you to when you're maybe stuck for an idea about where to go on the handpan. A lot of times what I do is I might listen to a different instrument to get ideas for something that I'm working on. And this way, and since drum set is basically all about laying it down and keeping the rhythm, what you can do is hopefully this will inspire you to listen to some different styles of music and take the rhythms from those styles and put them on the handpan. And then Dave's going to show you as we do this how melodies can evolve from these rhythms. So here, the basic rock beat would be right? We all know that one. This is a basic dance rock and roll groove. So, so the bass drum is 1, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So there's that. Now, so what would Dave do on the handpan?
So basically on the handpan, I'm taking the bass drum part and putting it onto the ding part here. Boom, boom, pop. And the snare drum is over here in the interstitial metal between the notes. So it's basically emulating that drum beat. The only thing I can't quite do is the hi-hat part. But you can kind of do these little hidden notes. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about ghost notes before I talk about this on the handpan?
Yeah, so a ghost note is a note that's played slightly less loud than the accented beats, and sometimes almost not at all. And so I can take what I just did, that basic rock drum beat, and I can make it sound a whole heck of a lot more interesting by throwing some ghost notes in with my left hand on the snare. So watch how this works. So there, you see that really kind of spiced it up. Still very simple beat, but I was really adding a lot to it by just a few little extra notes with the left hand.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of on a handpan, you kind of have to mix it up a little bit too with some of those ghost notes to make it a little bit more exciting. So for instance, like I was saying, the bass drum on the ding, the snare drum is in the interstitial metal over here. So you can just do the basic beat. But if you add a few little spicy ghost notes, notice I'm kind of using my other fingers, kind of slapping the handpan just in a little bit of a different way, just to kind of give it a little spice. So those are basically what we call ghost notes, and they either anticipate or come after the main beats, which are the boom, tap, boom, boom, tap, boom, tap, boom, boom, tap. And it's interesting, I don't know, Greg, you probably are in agreement with this, but pretty much those notes between the notes are kind of what identify one player to another player. Because everybody plays those ghost notes slightly different. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
some people might play more, some people might play fewer ghost notes, and it's the volume. Some people might really accentuate. The drummer for Tower of Power, David Garibaldi, is a master at having different dynamic levels between the snare and the cymbal parts, and even the bass drum, and he really has. So if you really want to get some crazy rhythmic stuff going, listen to Tower of Power with David Garibaldi playing drums, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about with the ghost notes.
Yeah.
He's a master at it.
All right, what do you say we play some rock, Greg? What do you think?
Well, let's do it.
Okay. All right, here we go. So why don't you get us started, and I'll come in and we'll just do like a little sample of playing with a rock rhythm on the handpan.
Okay.
All right, so Greg's got the rock beat going. I'm just gonna kind of emulate it. So I'm emulating it right now. I'm just kind of getting a feel for it. And then I can just add stuff. Add musical ideas. Go back to that beat, just the rock beat on the handpan, kind of give it some space. And then even if I just did this, Greg could play a little solo. Goes back to the rhythm, and then it's my turn. So you can see that's your basic rock beat with the handpan and drum set. Woohoo! Awesome. Greg, that was great. Thank you.
Wasn't it?
All right, great. So our next rhythm we want to talk about is something that Greg and I both learned in college in the steel drum band, and that is, oh, by the way, sorry to interrupt real quick. Carlos Cooper is on. Carlos, thank you so much for joining us. You said, greetings to everyone, thanks for offering this. You're welcome, and we're glad to see you online absorbing all this information too. That's great. All right, so back to the Calypso. So Greg and I both got to know each other in college at Cal State Long Beach, and we were in the steel drum band, and we played a lot of Calypso in that steel drum band because Calypso music comes from the island of Trinidad, as does the steel drum, but they both come from the island of Trinidad, so they kind of in hand work together. So Greg, why don't you give us an example of Calypso music first of all, and then we will tear it apart and learn how to put some ideas onto the handpan, then we'll play together.
Okay, so a basic Calypso beat would be something like, let's see, let me just do, the concept of 4 on the floor is going to come up in this one. It's where the bass drum just plays quarter notes, and that is a pretty big part of there's a couple different Calypso beats, but this is one of the basic ones, and it goes something like, it's got a real nice kind of a bounce to it. So the basic rhythm here employed in this is one that can be found in a lot of cultures, and I was told it's called it's known kind of as a circle rhythm, and I don't know if ethnomusicologists put that name on it, but the basic rhythm is, so again, ba 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 ba. Now I can also get away from the 4 on the floor, and I can put that that circle rhythm in the bass drum. So when I was doing the circle rhythm on the bass drum, it freed my left hand up to kind of improvise a little bit. So I was kind of making up almost a little melody on the snare drum. And this is just kind of another metronomic thing, holding down the basic time. The hi-hat there. So that's kind of the basic overview of a calypso groove.
Thank you, Greg.
You're
that was
very
wonderful.
welcome.
That was actually, you gave me a lot of good ideas on that. So again, if we use the handpan in a way where the ding note basically emulates the bass drum and the interstitial metal basically emulates the snare drum, what Greg was showing you earlier, the bass drum was playing 4 beats on the bass drum. So play that real quick, where you're just playing the 4 beats and the yeah.
You want me to play the other stuff?
Yeah, and then
too?
just play that stuff, yeah. Right. All right, and then that was excellent, thank you, sir. And then the snare drum was playing a little bit of a backbeat, so or like a little of that circle rhythm he was talking about. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over here is where I'm going to play the snare drum part. Da, 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 right? So that's basic calypso right there. And then he turned it around. He put the calypso part on the bass drum, and then he put, what'd you put on the upper part, on the snare drum?
I was improvising.
Oh, okay, just kind of a little bit of an improvise. But I'm just going to put like a backbeat to it. So let's put the circle rhythm here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, like that. So that's almost like turning it around a little bit. But if I was to basically play it like a regular old calypso, I would probably do it what Greg showed the first time, where it'd be done like this. So that's how I would play the calypso rhythm on the handpan, just the basic element of it. Now, real quick, Greg, you actually have a business called Engine Room, right?
Yes, Engine Room, yeah.
Engine Room Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the term engine room mean?
Engine room is the percussion section for a steel drum band, and it consists of, well, in the early days, before drum set entered into calypso, it was basically congas, which is hand percussion, and probably various different kinds of bells, even pots and pans in the really early days. And shakers, the
oh yeah,
that
like
kind of
shaker,
thing.
like
Yeah.
this.
So, and Dave's got his. He just about 15 minutes ago, he created a homemade shaker just for the example of illustration here. But so shakers, congas, bongos, things like that. And so that's the basic engine. Oh, and even a brake drum from a car. They actually, it makes a really neat sound. It's a big round metal disc. And if you play on the inside of it, where the hole is, you play right there, and it gets a nice clangy sound. And that's one of the big driving instruments in a steel drum band. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting thinking about those elements there. So about the brake drum is usually a very repetitive pattern, kind of like, it kind of takes the place of the hi-hat, right, Greg? A little bit?
So it would be a basic, like if I was going to, it would be, and it's kind of got a little bit of accent in it.
Yeah.
But it's more metallic like that. It's a bit higher pitched.
Right. So I was thinking, if I was to play the brake drum part on the handpan, I mean, I could just play it on the interstitial metal, just repeating notes. But it's actually kind of interesting. You could use different pitches. Like, because in Trinidad, they usually have sometimes 2, 3, or 4 people playing different rhythms on these brake drums, which is like the brake drum from a car. And you just take off the wheel and everything, or take off the tire and everything, and it just rings. It has an interesting ring to it. So sometimes they play interesting offbeat rhythms, so it might sound something like... something like that, right? Which just has this interesting repeating pattern to it. So I'm actually going to try that, Greg. I want to try having you maybe play the Calypso Beat, and I'm just going to play some interesting melodic weirdness as emulating the brake drum.
Okay.
So I'm going to pretend like I'm the brake drum. I could keep this going if I wanted to, or I could switch notes. So there, thank you very much, Greg. So there you can see how I'm taking like that certain part of the music, of the rhythm, and I made it melodic just by using some of the different tones available on the handpan. But the rhythm, I was keeping the rhythm the same. So I thought that was kind of fun. I kind of liked it, actually. What do you think, Greg?
We got the beginnings of a new composition right there.
Absolutely. All right, so maybe let's play just some of that basic calypso together so we can kind of give everybody an idea of what that basic calypso sounds.
Okay.
Break drum part. All right. All right. So there's a very interesting calypso. It sounded a little bit rockish, but it also had that calypso beat, definitely that calypso beat with it. So, Greg, do you have any other comments on the calypso beat?
Not that I could think of. Maybe I'll think of something.
Yeah,
later,
I think mostly the point on the calypso beat that it kind of has that circle rhythm that you're talking about. Bum, bum, bum,
Yeah, that's
bum,
the main takeaway. That.
Yeah, and you can either mix that up or you can spread it out. You can do different things with that circle rhythm. So like you could either keep it on the ding note here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or you could spread it out, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Or you could do something like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's all sorts of fun stuff you could do it. If you had a shaker, you could just do that kind of thing. So you can really mix up a lot of ideas with that circle rhythm. That one.
Yeah, I mean, just think about that one simple little rhythm. Look at all the stuff that he got out of that handpan just from that. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at this point, because we're kind of throwing an awful lot at you, especially if you haven't been into music for very long yet. But just don't worry about that. Just kind of the main takeaway is that you can just branch your musical interests out and listen to a bunch of other things to bring back to the handpan. That's the main thing here.
That's right. So. That's right. Yeah. So just learn the simple elements of that rhythm, and then expand on those simple elements. It's really kind of that's the point that I'm like trying to work with here. By the way, my wife checked in here, Jackie Beery. She left a comment for us. She says, "You guys sound great. So good to see Greg. He's always fun to watch." So thank you, Jackie,
thanks,
my
Jackie.
lovely wife. So thank you for checking in with us. Again, if anybody has just tuned in, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them into the comments section. We're looking at them live right now, so if you have any questions, we can answer them live for you right now here on the video. So, all right, we're going to move on. So we talked about the basic rock rhythms. We talked about calypso rhythms from the island of Trinidad. And now we're going to move over to Africa, Greg, the African 6/8. So explain a little bit about this rhythm that you're going to talk about.
Well, it's basically, this is an interesting one because it's kind of got 4 in the bass drum. And again, oh, well, actually, now we're sort of, this is a good time for this because we're kind of now moving into the territory in the next couple of styles that we're going to do where the stuff that you hear on drum set is usually done by 3, 4, or more percussionists. And the drummer's job now has been to put it all together in one instrument. I guess you could think that that's putting other people out of work, but you know, it's all part of kind of moving the music forward as well. And so basically in this one, so we have a 6/8 pattern here. And 4, I can't talk and do it at the same time. So 1, 2, 3. Dave, can you count the 6 over the top of this?
I'll do the 6.
So here's 4, 1, 2, and here's the 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, so that's basically that. That's the main part. Now, as a drummer, I've used that in a couple of things, and then I can actually sort of make it more kind of sound like a rock thing if I put a backbeat on it. Okay, so that rhythm is really cool. It's got a couple different things going on, and what it does is it really kind of builds this tension up in those two sort of opposing rhythms. So, what would you do with that on handpan?
Absolutely. So again, if you notice what Greg was doing on the bass drum, he was keeping the 4, even though we're talking about the African 6/8. It can be felt in all variety of different rhythms. It can be felt in he was talking about the backbeat that he was giving it. That's kind of like a strong 2 feel. It has like a 1, 2, 1, 2 with that rhythm that he's playing on the cymbal. And then he was also playing 4 beats on the bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4, bum, bum, ba, 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 ba. So again, I would probably just play something like that on the ding note, and then take that other rhythm that he was playing the cymbal, which was derived actually, I believe, from the bells in. They've got a set of 2 bells, a small bell and a large bell in Africa, and I think they call it the Kongo bell. My pronunciation is terrible. But that bell pattern goes dung dang da 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 dung da 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 da. So it has a real strong 1, and then it has a rhythm on top. So that's what he's been playing on the cymbal. So give it to us one more time on the cymbal, Greg.
All right. 1.
Right. So yeah, so I would probably just take that and try to explore that. The first thing I would do is just get the basic elements going first. So I'm just going to play the basic element here in the interstitial metal, and then the left hand is going to play the bass drum part. So. Let's play that together just for a sample there, Greg.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, and. So that's the basic element. Then from there, you could actually make it sound like the bells by spreading it out over a couple notes. So it might sound something like this. Dun, dun. So I might do something like that to kind of give it an interesting melodic idea. So Greg, let's try playing it like that. Okay. With the drum set and the handpan playing a little bit more melodically. 1, 2, ready, and. So then if I was going to explore that even more on the handpan, you could do maybe just instead of just those 2 notes, you could maybe play on different notes. So something like, and I'm just going to explore randomly right now. see, I'm just kind of exploring with that rhythm, just like hitting different notes, just seeing what happens. And then you could probably, even if you wanted to, expand to two different notes here. So instead of just playing the ding note, so now I've got like a bass line in my left hand, and then I'm playing that other rhythm in my right hand. And don't worry, this is all kind of a little bit complex right now for some beginners, but we're just kind of exploring these ideas with you right now just to kind of show you like how we could create some different rhythms from this. So Greg, let's try playing that rhythm together. And now I'm going to split it up a little bit and have some fun. Okay, 1, 2, 3, yeah. Greg. Okay, there we go. So that's a quick lesson on the African 6/8. Greg, what do you think? Was that fun?
That was way too much fun. Yeah, it was very fun.
Cool.
All right.
Okay, so all right, we talked about basic rock. We talked about Calypso. We got into African 6/8 a little bit. We're moving this along pretty quickly, by the way, you guys, because we could go like all day with this. These things. Could
well,
be
any
torn
one of
apart.
these we could go all day with.
Yeah.
But again, this is just a huge overview. So
exactly, huge overview. So hope you're enjoying it so far. Again, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them into the comments section. I'm monitoring them over here on my little cell phone over on my left-hand side here. So if I see anything pop up, I'll bring it up and we can talk about it. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our Brazilian Samba feel. All right, so tell us a little bit about the Brazilian rhythms that you know here, Greg.
Well, Brazilian rhythms come from Brazil.
Yeah.
That was a joke. And so this is really interesting. This is what we're going to do right now is a samba, and we're going to show you kind of how that evolved into bossa nova. I'm sure you've probably heard both of those terms. So the samba has, and again, this is one of those things where the drum set player is going to be doing the work of several percussionists. One of the main ones that gives it the pulse is called the surdo, or surdo. I'm not really kind of mangling the pronunciation there. S-U-R-D-O is how you spell it. And the basic pulse of the surdo is. So Dave, can you hand me that shaker real quick?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there would be a shaker part. And right there's your basic components of the Brazilian rhythm. And then what I would do, well then another, actually the tamborim, it's a little drum with one head on it, and it's played with a stick that's kind of splayed, sort of like this. And you hit it on one side, and it makes a kind of rack-a-cack-cack sound. But the main rhythm for that is bop 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 bop. So the way that all sounds together is. Okay, so I'm doing the work of three people right there. Now, I can play that with either the shaker with my right hand, or if I want to put that part on the cymbal, I might do something like this. And then I can actually improvise a little bit with my left hand and embellish it. So you can see that even when I was improvising with my left hand, I still kind of stayed within the bop, 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 bop. That was always in kind of the back of my head as I was improvising, because that way it kind of makes it sort of a thematic device and kind of keeps it all tied together. I can also do that same thing on the hi-hat. If I want a little bit of a quieter or more subtle kind of, maybe using that for an intro to a tune. So that's kind of the basic idea of a samba pattern right there. So now, turn it back over to Dave and see what he can do with that.
All right.
I'm throwing down the gauntlet
Yeah.
here, so what do you got, Dave?
All right, well, again, by the way, we've got Ed Oyama, Oyama's Music. He's a student that I used to have over at North High School. So, Ed, good to see you online here. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for your comments. And Ed, by the way, he said hey to Jackie, too, because he knows Jackie. So he says, bring that Samba, y'all. So thank you, Ed. Great to see
y'all.
you. Yeah. So all right, I'm going to explore the Samba that Greg just explained on the drum set. So again, I'm going to use the ding note as the bass drum. So that was kind of like this boom, 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 boom sound. So I can kind of do it with one hand. And then he was playing another rhythm. I think he talked, what was it, the one? What was
Oh, you know what? Actually, the ah-go-go part.
Ah-go-go.
It's two bells.
Yeah,
They're on top of each other, and they're you hold them like this, and then it's one's higher pitched than the other. So there's a low and a high bell, and it's kind of like. And that kind of goes with everything else, the shaker and the surdo and the snare drum part and all that. So
yeah, and I think the ah-go-go is a relative of the gonkokwe bell. Again, pronunciation might be completely off on the African instrument, and it has kind of a similar function. So, but it has maybe a different rhythm. So it was a boom, boom, boom. What was it again, Greg?
So it's 1 and 2 and 1 E a 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 E.
So again, you can kind of emulate those bells, the low and the high, with the low and the high of the handpan notes. You could, I mean, you could do it here also. I'm just kind of playing it up high so you can see it on the camera and everything, but you get the idea. So you just stretch it out over a couple different notes. So let's see if I can put those together. So this is going boom, boom, like the bass drum. Did I get it right?
You got it.
So you can see how I'm doing that. All right, so you can see how I put those two parts together. So we've got basically like the surdo part, and there's a special pronunciation for that too, and I'm sure I'm getting it wrong. But that's the bass drum part that Greg was playing, and then I was playing the bell part with my right hand. So again, this is pretty complex stuff, especially for beginners, but you get the idea. You learn these separate parts, put them together. The other thing too is that you don't have to play them together. For instance, like let's say you have a rhythm player like Greg. I'm going to leave out the bass drum now, and I'm just going to play the top part. So let's try that, Greg. You want to try it? 1, 2, ready, and. So you now see that Greg's playing the rhythm, and I'm just playing the ah-go part, ah-go-go part. And I can use that, thank you, Greg. Mm-hmm. And I can use that as just like a little motif to start off the song. So let's just use that as a motif, like a small little melody part or a repeating pattern. Sometimes they call it an ostinato in music language, like a repeating pattern. So I'm going to play that, and then Greg's going to keep going with that rhythm, and then I'm just going to explore some more ideas with it. And you'll see how I integrate maybe the bass drum part or the ah-go-go part in just different ways. So let's give that a try.
Okay.
1, 2, ready, and. All right, so first things first, I'm just going to explore that ah-go-go part. I switched off from the ah-go-go, and now I'm playing the bass drum part. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. And now I'm just gonna screw around and have some fun. Of your own. I'm going to hold it down.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. That's a very interesting version of a samba that we created just out of the blue, but with just the different elements of the samba rhythm. So Greg, now there's another rhythm that's very popular from Brazil. Oh, by the way, we had Daddy Depot. Daddy Depot? Daddy Depot, I'm not sure who it is. Says, any suggestions for how to train oneself to do different rhythms with the different hands? Excellent question.
Oh yeah, because a lot of what we're doing takes some independence of limbs. You got to work out the, in other words, you got to sort of be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, kind of a thing. So yeah, you've got to start. One good way to start, and I don't know what your level is right now, but one good way is just to take one hand and play one rhythm. So I don't know what you guys know about different note values, but for now, these are quarter notes, but let's just assign them a number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then what you can do is with your other hand, and it's good to switch off. I'm starting with my right hand. Then you could maybe do that together. 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1 and 2. Play in the off beats. So I'm playing here. Then with my left hand, I'm playing in the whole, right? Which is easy because you're just going right, left, right, left, right, left. But when you think about it in a different way, it kind of tweaks your brain a little bit. It's all in how you have to think about it. Then what you can do is still take this quarter note pulse and then double up with your other hand. Something like that. So that's one basic way to do it. And then from there, then you can explore some more difficult rhythms. But for now, that's one good way to start. And what you can do is, one good thing to do would be if you can learn to read a little bit of music, at least just the rhythms of it. That will kind of help you to be able to build up. But again, it's a coordination thing. And what I used to do when I was starting out with, I would just make up my own exercises and try to figure out, well, how can I integrate this rhythm with this rhythm? And now, of course, you see me playing, and now I'm doing sometimes 4 different rhythms at once. And you can make up your own rhythms like that. It's just, you have to do it kind of slowly. So like if I wanted to do like dot, 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 right? That would maybe be the next step. So I could have 1, 2, dot, 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 dot. So you got to figure out how they're going to kind of line up. There's sometimes certain beats of it are going to fall together, like the 1 and a 2 and a 3, right? Sometimes they'll fall together, and sometimes the other hand is going to be playing in between. That's about the best way that I can explain it without really giving you a lesson in actual note reading and building rhythms off of that. So I hope that helps a little bit. You know, just go ahead and try your own things like that. And since you're going to be playing handpan, you're not going to be using your feet, which is the good thing. You have 2 fewer limbs to worry about there. So just try again, simple one hand playing a pattern, and then try to play in the holes, and then try to maybe do something a little like 1 and 2 and 3 and, right? You just try different rhythms with each hand and try to get them to line up. So I hope that answer helps.
Daddy Depot says, I like it, thanks.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah, on the handpan, I would say it's a lot of what Greg just described too, but like let me just explain when Greg and I were practicing for today, that pattern that I just played. He played it and I thought to myself, I don't know that one. Actually, that's a different one that I had learned before. So I actually had to slow down a second and just learn it before this. And so what I first did is I had to slow it down, and I didn't play it on 2 different notes. I played it just on the interstitial melody here. So I just made it so I wasn't moving my arms around. So that, complicates things. So it's one thing to do the rhythm with 2 hands, but then it's another thing to move it around and make musical elements out of it. But even before that, like, you have to take each one of those elements and learn them independently. So the pattern that I was playing on the ding note, boom, 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 you have to become just really comfortable with that. And I'm lucky because I was a drummer since I was 10, and I think Greg was a drummer since he was, what, 14, you said?
Well, a little bit before that, taking lessons. But
Yeah. So we've had this experience with playing rhythms for a long, long time. But breaking it down to the basic elements and taking it slow, that's another thing. And then, so let's say I have this part, and I learned it on my left hand now. The first thing you got to learn is how to play the first note together. So just play that first note. Bum 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 bum. And then try 2. Bum bum. Bum bum. Right? That might be complicated actually right there, just learning that much. So just take it slow, 1 note at a time, get really confident, and practice each one separately. Bum 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 bum, whatever it is, right? And just get really comfortable with those on each hand, and slowly but surely you'll get there. This is a very complicated rhythm, so I don't suggest beginners start with this rhythm. You might just start with something simple, like where you're just playing this on 4 beats. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe on this hand, you're going to play 2 notes, and you're going to go back and forth. Right? So now you're doing 2 different things with the hands, and so that's just like the beginning idea of how to explore independence. And then beyond that, like, you could maybe play 3 notes, and I think Greg said something like fill in the hole. So instead of playing together, play separately. So, and then go back to maybe playing together, and then separately. That sort of thing. So basically, you're just taking it very slowly. Just take one little element at a time. But really, it takes a considerable amount of time to learn how to play independently. And everybody that you see out there that's on these videos that are playing these spectacular rhythms and doing all this independent stuff, they've practiced a long time for that. And not only have they maybe practiced on handpan, but they might have actually played other instruments as well, other different hand percussion instruments, and been exposed to these things for years before they even got their hands on a handpan. So as you're exploring it yourself, just give yourself a lot of time to develop it, and just take it slow and practice the basics. The basics are really are the most important. Just ground yourself in the basics, and just have fun. So ultimately, there you go.
And one good thing about it is when you learn one rhythm, everything from there kind of builds off of what you've learned previously. So it's not like you're necessarily learning something completely new. I mean, there are only so many rhythms. And then once you get to a certain point, it's just different combinations. So that thinking of it like that might make the task seem a little less daunting. So.
Yeah. The other thing too is, like, if I tried reversing this and playing those rhythms with my right hand and my left hand versus my left hand and my right hand, I couldn't do it. I would have to practice a lot in order to really make it sound good. So sometimes the one hand versus the other hand, we have like dominant hands versus that sort of thing. So just go with your dominant hand for now, especially as you're beginning, and try to make it work for you.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point. So we're both right-handers, and he said he played drums too. You know, that's how we both started. So with me, on drums, we have a thing we call right-hand lead. So if I'm going to do a drum fill like ba da 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 da, like that, go around the drum set. I'm missing the toms for that right now, but I'm going to lead with my dominant hand. That's why I set the drums up going down to my right. If I was a left-handed drummer, I would set them up the opposite way, because my left hand would be doing the lead. Okay, so if you think of it like that, make your dominant hand the lead hand, and that will help you as well. So that's actually a good point.
All right, so Ed has a few comments here. So everybody's liking what we're talking about here, and Ed said, interesting making up your own drills. Dave, love what you're doing melody-wise. Then he said, could you break down a little bit of what you're thinking of when you went off the screwing around bit that I was doing? And then he said, I like these handpans, do a whole chromatic scale. Da, da, da. Okay, so basically breaking it down with talking about what I was thinking about when I was just quote-unquote screwing around. Part of me knows this instrument really well now because I've been making these for a while, so I know just basically how it sounds, and like a certain sound, if I want to have that sound, I can just reach for it and it's kind of there. But also I have a degree in music, so I've been studying music my entire life, and so I think of my things that I do in chords frequently, like this is an F chord, this is a C chord, this is a D minor chord. So I'm very familiar with all those chords and how they all interact together. But I don't really think I was quite thinking of chords that time around. I was just having a fun time playing. A lot of times what I think of when I'm just kind of screwing around is I'm trying to figure out a mood sometimes. Like, do I want to have an exciting mood, or do I want to have a dark mood, or what kind of energy am I trying to exhibit here? So sometimes if I'm playing like faster notes, something like that, it kind of can build, right? Because it's fast. But if you play slow, and you want to give a little energy, right? Something like that. So sometimes I think about the different notes that I'm playing as ways of creating energy or reducing energy or volume. So it's not always chords that I'm thinking about. Sometimes I'm thinking about just the energy that I'm trying to exhibit and play. So I don't. It's really hard to talk about how you think about this stuff in the moment. Sometimes you can't really explain it all. It just happens. But I would say after you get comfortable with playing an instrument for a long time, you really do become comfortable in a way where you can kind of anticipate what it's going to sound like and that sort of thing as well. So, Greg, do you have any comments on that?
Well, and also part of what we're talking about is using these different rhythms from different types of music from different places in the world to sort of inform what you're doing melodically. So a little while ago we were talking about, when I was talking about improvising with my left hand, I was still keeping that basic, it was the Brazilian thing, the bop, 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 that rhythm, I was still, in fact, I wasn't even thinking about it, because like Dave said, we've both been playing so long that when it becomes ingrained in you, you don't need to think about it, but that was there, that was in, I could feel that pulse when I was improvising with my left hand. So that's kind of part of what we're doing here. So when Dave was screwing around, he was also keeping those rhythms that we were basing the basic part of it from. He was keeping those in the back of his mind and using those for fuel for melodic ideas.
Fuel. I like that word. I like that. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's well said, Greg. Thank you. Let's see. Daddy Depot says again, let's see. All good advice. What are you saying fits with what has worked for me so far? Okay, good. Ed says, oh, I'm a self-taught drummer. That bit about leading with the right hand was something I never heard of. Haha. Thanks, Greg.
There you go, yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so we are going to move.
But you probably do it automatically without thinking about it. I don't know what your dominant hand is, but you probably do it instinctively anyway. So it's almost nothing that you have to think about until you actually have to break it down for a student, and then they have the aha moment. And then when you can start thinking about it that way, it kind of clears up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Cool, awesome. So we were in the middle of Brazilian Samba, and did we get to Bossa? We didn't get to Bossa.
Oh, we haven't gotten to Bossa Nova yet.
All right, so we've got just quick rundown. So we went through basic rock, Calypso from Trinidad, African 6/8. Now we're on Brazilian rhythms, and then we're going to do Afro Cuban after this and kind of wrap it all up. But let's talk about the Bossa a little bit, Greg, and explain how you've heard it and how you play it and that sort of thing.
Okay, so we were just playing the Samba, which is kind of a street march, basically, is what it is in Brazil. And again, that was... Right? Ba-bum, ba-bum. There's the heartbeat. So what happened was, in the late 50s and early 60s, I think Stan Getz, a saxophone player, and Antonio Carlos Jobim from Brazil were two of the big guys who started off playing what they call bossa nova, which is a slowed down, sort of more sultry version, more romantic version of samba. So they just basically took it, much like how reggae is the slowed down version of ska, bossa nova is the slowed down version of samba. So the basic bossa nova is, you've got, you know, tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl, you know, right? So we got, so that's the basic idea there. And it's a little less complicated, more sort of almost like what pop music would be, just very simple rhythms underneath a really nice melody line and a chord structure. But that's the basic idea for bossa nova right there.
Yeah, so awesome. So again, interestingly, on the bossa, we're going to be basically using the bass drum as the element for the ding note. Boom, boom, boom. It's just a little bit slower this time, I think, is really kind of the trick with bossa. It's usually slower. And then that rhythm that you were playing on the snare drum was like a elongated 3-2 rhythm. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, something like that, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So you can see even right now I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit because I haven't really done it on handpan too much. So I'm learning as I go. So if you guys are asking these questions, how do you learn stuff like this? You're watching me learn right now. I would take that a little slower if I wanted to get more comfortable with it. Boom, 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 1. So the cool thing about that is right there, like let's say you were playing a handpan gig and you just wanted to kind of create a new little feel for the next piece that you were playing or whatever it was. You could even do it on a different note. Right? So now all of a sudden, instead of playing your rock beat, now you can move into something else where it just sounds different. It's going to draw your audience in, and they're going to be like, oh, that's different. What is that? You know, what are you playing there? So that's something really cool just about learning these different rhythms too, is it just gives you some different options for just different rhythms to attract your audience in a different way and creating different music. What were you doing with your hi-hat there, Greg? Was there anything?
It was just basically playing 16th notes. So much like what a shaker would do. Remember how we were talking about how with the samba, I took a bunch of people's jobs away. I took the shaker.
Yeah.
He's out of a job now. The surdo player, I got that, buddy, sorry. Then the tambourine player was what I was playing here. And so the shaker is here, so it's the same idea there.
Oh, that's right. And then I brought my shaker here.
Yeah.
Like you could play. So if you were playing a shaker with the handpan, you can learn how to do this kind of thing. And let's say you had a singer or somebody that was performing along with you, then you can kind of ground the instrument or the group just maybe with your simple shaker. By the way, I'm very proud of this shaker. I taped together two little things from my desk, and inside of this shaker are a bunch of paper clips. So, so it's my impromptu shaker. But yeah, you could just lead the band rhythmically. You know, that kind of thing. And then, like, maybe if you could, maybe you could play the shaker with that other rhythm, and I'm not going to really attempt it right now because I think I'm going to destroy it, but you could play the snare drum rhythm and the shaker at the same time. You could explore that as well. So different things you could do with the handpan just to kind of create different mood. So Greg, what do you say we maybe play that together a little bit?
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and... Take it away, Greg. Awesome. So there you go. So that's what our little exploration of the bossa nova from Brazil. So I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, all of these you're going to notice if you just like look at the video later and rewind it, you're going to see that all of these have a little bit of a different feel, and all the ideas that come out of it are going to be slightly different. It's pretty cool. All right, moving on. I see a bunch of fire stuff over here on our comments from Ed again. So
that could
thank
be
you,
good
Ed.
or bad. We don't know, right?
No, Ed, he's all over it. He's loving it. He's like, bossa! So Ed's loving it. He says, Greg's putting everybody out of work, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the price of progress.
Yeah, awesome. By the way, everybody out there, Ed Oyama has his own show, so if you guys want to check out, he does audio, sometimes live stuff about him creating audio. What do you create, Ed? I think it's like the electronic music, like EDM, house music, and that sort of thing. So he'll go live, and he'll actually show what he's doing, how to create these kind of arrangements and that sort of thing. So check out Ed. It's Oyama Music. So everybody go out there and check out Ed. He does some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. All right. Afro Cuban is our last one that we're going to be talking about. This is a very popular style out there in the music world. And there's, again, there's lots of elements in Afro Cuban that are drawn from separate players. It's not just a drum set player. It's like a clave player, a cowbell player, a timbali player. And so with the drum set, Greg kind of puts those all together. And then today we're going to be talking about each one of those and kind of tearing it apart again. So Greg, give us your take on the Afro Cuban kind of style.
Okay, so in an Afro Cuban, what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate kind of on a style called mambo. And that's what evolved into the modern day salsa, and I'm sure you've all heard of salsa. So if you are salsa dancers or have heard of salsa, now you know that it comes from an older form called mambo. Now in a salsa band or in an Afro-Cuban kind of a situation, the main engine room, like what we were talking about before, is going to be congas, bongos, cowbell, and timbales. Timbales are the two, they look almost like a snare. There's two of them. One's a little bit higher pitched, and then the timbale player has a bell as well as maybe a cymbal, and even nowadays they add a bass drum too. So, but let's start with the Kongo part. So the Kongo part is kind of something like... All right, so that's the basic. So it'll be 1, 2, 1, yeah. Anyway, you got it. So the then so boom boom boom. That's basically the thing. So now, then the timbale player will play a pattern that goes along with that called the cascara pattern, and it goes. Now with their other stick, they might kind of outline the Kongo pattern. Remember the one boom boom. Now, I'm trying to get a high and a low pitch out of this snare. Usually the Kongo player will have boom boom, boom boom. They'll have a lower pitched drum as well. So for me, here's what the timbale player would maybe do that with either the stick with the cascara pattern. So that's the timbale player's kind of doing the work of two people there. Now, on drum set, so then there's also what they call the clave pattern, which is 1, bop, 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 bop. And that's a big part of it. So I'm going to do that with the hi-hat. Now what the timbale player might do is just kind of keep time with his left hand, put the stick under his arm and then they'll put in little fills. So the timbale player is almost kind of like the drum set player of the salsa band. Now, when I'm going to do this stuff on drum set, I've got other toms that I can help to mimic the Kongo player, but I might put the cascara pattern up here, or maybe start the tune with it here. And this, the bass drum's playing what's called a tumbao pattern, which goes with what the bass player's playing. And then I might also put the cascara pattern over here. So, so that's basically it. So that's, I'm going really quick, but that's the basic overview of mambo / salsa music. So. Dave?
Yeah, it's an enormous subject, and people study this stuff for years. It's not something simple that you can just warm up to, usually really fast in one session. So if anybody out there is trying to explore these the Afro-Cuban rhythms, it's something you can really study for a long time. But yeah, so I'm going to just take a little bit of the elements that Greg talked about and explore some of those on the handpan again. First, we've got a couple comments, and by the way, I saw one here from Zenfish. He says, "Now we're talking. Greetings from San Juan, Puerto Rico." All right, so anybody who's from Puerto Rico probably knows what the heck. Probably knows you could probably blow us away with your discussion about this. You probably know all these rhythms way better than we do. But so glad to have you here and watching. It's going to be great to see any more comments that you might make. It says, "Just purchased a handpan from you, Dave." Woohoo! Awesome. Yep, that's right, Puerto Rico. So thank you for tuning in. So let me just explore that. So. The cascara is like the shell. It means the shell. So like interesting, like you could actually play that rhythm on the shell of the handpan. So what was it? And I think the timbale player usually has like a high and a low timbale, and on the low one they take their mallet and they kind of like mute the drum, open the drum, mute the drum, and play it open like this, kind of on a back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of trying to do when I turned the stick around. It's hard to hear though on this snare. It's kind of high pitched, so I'm not getting the full effect really. But.
Yeah, and then Greg was also kind of emulating the conga part, which is like called the tumbao. And the tumbao, I know how to play the tumbao on a conga, but I could never quite get it to work on a handpan. But it would look something like this. You could kind of do it. Right, you can kind of do it, it sort of works, but it's not quite the right instrument for that rhythm. But really, that rhythm is a good one to know. But that being said, you'll notice that I play 1, 2, 3, 4, and. That last one is a 4 and beat. 1 slap, 4 and 1 slap, 4 and 1 slap, 4 and, right? So it's like closed here and open here. So you hear that closed and open sound. Closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, right? So the same kind of thing is with that cascada pattern. So if you play the da 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 da, and then you're playing the left hand here, you can kind of play like do da da da. What is it? What is it? Do da 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 da. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm like tapping it, kind of giving a muted sound to it, and then I'm opening it on the 2 and the 4 beats. So it gets complicated. You can see I'm struggling with it a little bit just thinking it through. But again, this is something like you could do if you wanted to explore this and really take the handpan to a different level with some kind of group that you're playing with or just arrangements that you're making. You could really have a lot of fun with this. So. Right? So let's play that a little bit together because Greg, I think I got it right now. So I don't want to lose it. Don't want to lose it. So let's see if we can play that together. 1, 2, 3, and. So that's I'm just exploring it, just having fun out there. Okay, so another element that I think we were talking about over here with Greg was the Clavia pattern. The Clavia pattern is like super important in Samba and Afro Cuban music. So salsa is what I meant to say. So can you describe to us the 3-2 and the 2-3 Clavia pattern, Greg, just a little bit more in depth?
Yeah. Okay. So there's what they call a 2-3 and a 3-2, and basically it's the same pattern, only starting on the other side. So let's do a 2-3 first. So 1, ba, ba, ba. So the first was 2, 1 and 2. That's the 2 side, and then you'll hear the 3 side. 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3. All right. So 1. So I'm clapping the downbeat.
Right.
And you're hearing that. Now, if I want to reverse that, so that was 2-3. 1 and 2, 2 and 2, 1 and 2 and. Now, if I want to do 3-2, I just start on the 3 side. Now, this is very important because clave means key in Spanish. If you're playing in a salsa band and you cross clave, you're in trouble. Meaning if you're playing something rhythmically that is not lining up with the clave, they don't like that. And now the piano player, the bass player, all the rhythm section is going to base what they're doing. When the piano player is playing chords, it's called comping, short for accompaniment. When they're comping, they're going to comp with that clave pattern in mind. Now, they do not have to play it literally, but they do need to play in such a way that they're at least invoking that clave pattern, right? Implying what's going on there. And it's very important. It's the key, the whole rhythmic key. And so you can hear it right away. When I was first learning this stuff, I was unable to hear, wow, is that 3-2 or 2-3? But now, the minute I put on a salsa record, I can tell what it is. It seems like most nowadays you're going to hear 3-2 clave in a lot of salsa tunes. But at any rate, that's kind of the basic idea for it. It's sort of the rhythmic key for everything. And even say like you're a trumpet player and you're not part of the rhythm section, but when you're soloing or playing a melody, it's going to have, you got to know if it's 3-2 or 2-3 because you're going to be playing around that. Like I say, you don't have to play it literally, but it must be implied in what you're doing. Now, they've taken it to such a high art, the really good salsa players, that they're implying it, but it's there, but they're really able to mess with it and go pretty far. You might think, wow, I'm really locked into this rhythm. What can I do with it? You'd be surprised. The really good salsa players can really take it places. So anyway, that's kind of the basic idea of it.
Yeah, and so on handpan, let's say you're playing with a group of people, like you could, again, use that interstitial metal to play that clave part, and you could kind of almost be like the clave player. Dun, dun, dun. Or at least you could play along and have something to play, right? And so Greg, why don't you just play like a little groove? Let's do 3-2.
Okay.
And I'll just play along really quick just with that rhythm.
Okay.
Just to kind of show what it sounds like. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that's 3-2. Pop, pop.
Let's do something though.
Okay.
Play the 3-2.
Okay.
So the cascara pattern that I'm playing, which would be played on the side of the timbale, listen to how they line up. The clave and what I'm playing, the cascara pattern, is a different rhythm, but it's got the clave built into it. So let's do the 3-2. 1, 2, 2, 2, and. Yeah. So see how there's times where I'm playing in between, and then there's times where I line up with the clave pattern. That starts to give it some more interest, and that's kind of along the lines of what you'd be doing if you were comping on piano or playing a solo over the top of it.
Yeah. So another thing too is like a lot of times the bass on a Afro Cuban song will be like bum bum rest, bum bum rest, bum bum rest, bum bum. So you could also play something like that on the handpan. So go ahead and play just the rhythm, and I'm just going to play like a bass line.
Okay.
So let's give that a try. Ready, and. So something like that, you could just kind of mess around with different ideas. You don't even need to use the ding per se. You could just use that rhythm, rest, bum, bump, bum, bump, bum, bump, and kind of create your own little repetitive bass line like that. So, so we've got the 3-2. Let's go do that 2-3. So I moved on to the bass line. Sorry about that. Let's go to the 2-3 clave just to see what that sounds like really quick.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. You can see it sounds a little bit different. So the one has the 3 in the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and the other one is just the reverse of that. Rest. 1, 2, bump, 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 bump. For some reason, I like 2-3 best. What do you think? What do you like, Greg? What's your favorite?
I can go either way.
Oh, whoa, awesome!
Just as long as you don't cross clave, I'm happy.
Okay, very cool. let's see. Oh, so the cascara. We were talking about the cascara. Right. So you can kind of play that on the handpan. You could just explore the 2/3. And by the way, I was playing the 2/3 kind of with that high-pitched sound of the interstitial metal here, kind of emulating the clave, the wood sticks that make that clave sound. But like if you play, Greg, and I could just play melodically that rhythm, and it'll still kind of work. So let's try to give that a shot. Let's see what that sounds like. So I'm going to do a 3/2. We'll start with 3/2. Ready, and... One, two, three. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. And then I can deviate. And then go back to it. Back to the other thing. Two, three, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That's kind of a classic way of ending songs too. You just like play that clave really loud and everybody comes along and then plays it and then you're done. All right, so that was the 3/2. So let's explore the 2/3. Let's see what that one sounds like.
All right.
You good? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, and... So there you go. It's just a couple other variations. So you can see we're just exploring this stuff and having fun, but we're just using those rhythms, those just rhythms that everybody plays in pretty much every Afro Cuban song, but we're just exploring it differently on the handpan and playing it differently with the group here, with our little duo.
Our duo, yeah.
Yeah. So all right, let's see if there's any final questions or comments. Let's see. Rewild Your Soul, my friend. Rewild Your Soul came in. He says, "Nice, Dave!" Exclamation point. Wink, wink. Thank you so much. And Ed had a couple more. He says, let's see. What did Ed say? Oh, it says, Ed says, "Is Greg on this stream often?" Actually, this is his first time. Greg, thank you for being here. This is your first time.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast.
Yeah, if I had an audience clap button, I would push it. Clap, clap, clap. You know, that would be fun. And then we've got Daddy Depot again. "I'm so glad I joined to listen, watch, and participate. Thank you both." Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really wouldn't be the same without you guys commenting, so it really makes it fun and enjoyable for us to go back and forth and answer questions and that sort of thing, and the reactions are really a lot of fun. Greg, do you have any final comments?
Well, again, we gave you we went through a lot of history of music as well as a few different cultures in a little over an hour here. And so, again, just don't be overwhelmed. We're just kind of giving you sort of food for thought in terms of, the main thing is, when you're beginning an instrument, it's easy to get kind of stuck playing the same things. And that's kind of what the inspiration was for this rhythm workshop, was that to help people to kind of break the mold of what they're doing. I'm constantly looking for different ways out of my own traps that I fall into. On steel drum, I find myself sometimes, you know, and everybody does this, they kind of get to a point where they're kind of repeating the same licks. So I start to listen to other types of music and, well, what can I bring into this? Or, you know, learning new scales and things like that. And the thing with music is, it's both sort of daunting and comforting at the same time. We can never know it all in one lifetime. So that's both daunting, but it's also kind of comforting. It's like, well, if I can't know it all, I'm going to try to concentrate on little bits at a time and just grow in little, you know, bursts here and there. And so again, yeah, don't get overwhelmed, but just, you know, go out and explore different styles of music. Because man, we are living in a time when there are so many great styles out there. I mean, we can listen to punk, we can go and listen to classical, you know, we can listen to jazz. You know, in the 1800s, you couldn't do that. Yeah, and well, you couldn't listen because there was no recordings. You'd have to actually go to a performance, right?
Yeah.
So that's also another reason we're very lucky, is because we're living in an age where so much is recorded and it's right there at our fingertips. So just go out and explore. It's so much fun.
So yeah, as Greg was talking, I was actually trying to think of like a closing comment, and then my mind drifted to the 3-2 and the 2-3 pattern, and I was thinking, I wonder if you could do them at the same time. And I think it would sound like this.
Wow.
I think that's what it is.
Huh.
Let's see. Right?
Yeah, it is. But you're crossing clave, so
yeah, so
you're out of the band.
So there you go. So the people are talking about independence. Like if you want to learn independence, maybe you could just learn that pattern. So now you're doing the 3-2 on one hand, 2-3 on the other hand. And then I was thinking, even on the handpan, you could explore that more. Let's see if we could listen to it. Let's see. Oh no, I can't do it. I was thinking you could do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 on one hand, and the other one 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That would take a little while to practice.
Dave's got something to practice now.
Yeah, but that's a great brain teaser. So if anyone who wants to learn how to do 3-2 and 2-3 at the same time, melodically on the handpan, that's your challenge for this week. All right, so I'm glad I left you with a challenge. So all right, we're gonna log off. We're gonna play a little bit. What do you say we take it all the way back to the basic rock beat,
okay.
Gregors?
All right. For those who joined in late.
Yeah, and we'll do the basic rock and just have some fun. And then my high-tech ways of turning off the video are going to be to walk over to the terminal and actually click on the little finish button. So Greg's going to just keep playing while I walk over there. I'm going to say goodbye on the camera, and it'll be really fun, and that'll be it. So thank you again for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We really enjoyed being here with you, and we'll see you the next time. All right, let's rock out. Keep it up, Greg. I can do a 3-2 or 2-3.